So Eileen, what are you seeing as far as trends in the global mobility space?
You know, it's interesting, Julie. I think the whole definition of mobility has changed dramatically for our clients. So, old-fashioned definition, global mobility, expat assignment, 2 to 3 years, come back home to the home location. I think everything about global mobility has changed, and the new name is mobility. Mobility could be anything from a one-way transfer, transfer strategy, come back to the home location or another location. Could be long-term assignment, could be short-term assignment, could be a commuter, could be a traveler, could even be a virtual worker. So when we start to think about numbers of assignees, in the past it was about 1% of global employee workforce. When we take the new definition of mobility, which is basically anybody crossing a border, domestically or internationally for any purpose, including virtual, it's as much as 80% of the organization. So we use the phrase that mobility has gone mainstream. It truly has for many of our clients.
Right. Right. I'm just thinking through what that means on the corporate side for employers and what they need to do as far as making sure that, in the light of tax reform, a lot of companies are looking at restructuring and making sure that they've got the right corporate structure in place. And when you think about these type of mobile employees, maybe the structure needs to be different.
I would absolutely agree with that. I think that there's a couple of clients that we're working with now on very specific issues around employment structures. So it seems to fall into kind of two buckets. One is they have a need for highly specialized talent. They're going to hire from certain locations. They have no interest or plans to put a local legal entity in place. So how do they hire these people? In the past, it was often by default, hire them through corporate headquarters, hire them through a regional headquarters. But really, is that the right long-term solution when you know that's your new employee demographic or your new hiring pattern? So really thinking about that. And then you have companies that are reducing their footprint. So they're deliberately shrinking their footprint, closing entities, really being thoughtful about where they have entities and what type of structures. Again, how do you continue to hire the people and employ the people that remain in those locations?
Right. Right.
Kind of a new purpose GEC.
A new purpose GEC. So I think we are seeing a resurgence of GECs where companies are coming to us and saying, look, we do have one employee in France and we have one employee somewhere else that we really need to hire them, but we don't necessarily want to have a whole entity there. So how can we do that?
And I think we're seeing exactly the same thing. I think it's no longer a GEC as purely a social security planning tool or a GEC just to think about PE risk minimization, but it's truly HR driving the need for a global employment company as a true employment vehicle and an option to how they've hired people in the past, knowing this trend will continue. I'm seeing companies put global employment companies in place for a handful of people, but they're not the employees that went into a GEC in the past. These are not assignees. These are local employees in country where there's no other employment alternative. So really interesting, very different approach than we've seen in the past.
Yeah.